This is going to be an interesting video. Not sure which direction it's going to take because everything that's been downloading for me today has been all over the place, but quite intriguing, insightful, and I think you'll find it interesting. Some of which I want to share some things that maybe I haven't shared before. You know, most of you who do know me, have followed me for many years, know that I've always been very open. I have nothing to hide. Maybe I have been a little bit withholding in some ways, out of maybe even just out of the fact that a protection of other people and things like that. Wow. Here's my recommendation, my request. If those of you out there are finding my videos helpful, I think this one's going to help a lot more people, because we have this word called spirituality, and it floats around, and just like any label or anything that is the newest trend, or maybe it's something that it's a click, you know, it's something that you're trying to figure out for yourself. But essentially labels and titles and what people adhere to as being who they are all dismissive. Because the moment you put a label on something, the moment you have put it in a box, you kick it off to the side and you ignore it. What that essentially means is when you meet new people, you're not seeing them uniquely as they are, with the unique gifts and human qualities that they come to the table with. What you're seeing them as are the preconceived beliefs you hold around whatever label you attach to that person. So when you say, and this is what this one is about, this is about spirituality. Spirituality means something different to every single person. And my question is, let me know in the comments, what do you think spirituality means? What does it mean to you? How do you define it? I'd really love to hear your take on it, and especially because this is the dialogue and the conversation I'm going to have here. It is humbling. You know, a lot of things have happened over the past 3 years. A lot of things changed over these past months. There's quite a bit to share. So the reason this is coming up, and it's been coming up for me for years, for a long time, I've never liked labels. Mostly because I consider myself avant-garde, my own personal trendsetter. Also because I don't like to be compared. On just the simplest basic level, the only way we can make choices is to compare ourselves to something. And you can say you don't judge, but every single choice you make comes from the result of comparing. And whether you use the words judge or discern, which they are completely different, you're always making choices based on comparing your situation to someone else's situation, yourself to another person, your beliefs to the circumstances you're encountering. You cannot make a choice without, in some way, shape, or form, making a comparison and judging or discerning. Now, the reason I like to be very distinct in how I use the word judgment, because a lot of times judgment really comes with the background of harm, the judgment being a harsh selection or choice of comparison. Whereas discernment to me is recognizing you can discern, you can differentiate what aligns with you, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and it navigates you, it steers you. Judgment quite often does not require response or action. Judgment can just simply be you sitting around gossiping and judging people, right? That's probably the most obvious, clear example of when people are judging. This is the thing about spirituality. So a lot of people judge people by the way they looked, So if you're looking at someone in a certain way and they're dressed a certain way, in your mind you're formulating an idea. We all do it, and there is nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's especially better that you own it. Because the moment you deny that you do it, you dismiss yourself, you're doing harm to yourself and also the other person, because then you're operating from the guise of denial. So when you see someone, being aware that you are even placing a judgment upon them does not make you a bad person. Nor do you need to judge yourself for having the thoughts that you have. The moment you recognize what you're doing, the moment you're willing to look at, wow, I am placing judgment. I am putting them in a box. Wow, I see how they're dressed and I'm already coming up with a formulated idea of who that person is or what they're like. We need to catch ourselves, because when we're in awareness, that's when we have the opportunity to shift and to make different choices as a result of what it is that's coming up. This is what makes us human. The human element, is that we can consciously make the choice to change our behavior, our beliefs, and the situation. But it first starts with awareness. It's being mindful of whatever's coming up for you in your mind and discerning whether or not it is a true thought that is arising. And if it is untrue, then you can also make a shift. Loving awareness, people. And it takes conscious effort, constant work, and devotion to being better every single moment, every single day. Of course, we're always moving 10 steps forward and possibly a couple steps back or more. And then we go forward. And then when we come back, again, we're always expanding or contracting at all times. We're always acting out of love or out of fear. The fear of not getting love or not being worthy of receiving it. So when we start to be more aware of the root of where our judgment or our discernment is coming from, and how we're labeling and projecting ideas upon what someone is, what they are doing, who they are, creating stories, right? Because that's what it is. All of it is creating a story, creating drama that may or may not exist. And you know what? All of that's exhausting, because it expends energy that would be easily transformed in a way that is more cohesive and engaging and heart-centered and allows you to connect to another person. Because that's what we want. We want to be seen as we are. We want to see others as they are. We don't technically want people to show up to us as every single other person has shown up to us that we know in our past and our experiences. But the mind will hijack you and try to keep you on the track of what's familiar, because the familiarity is the control aspect, is the safety feature. Whenever we are catching ourselves in a place where we're uncomfortable, it's just unfamiliar. It's not bad. Discomfort shows there's something new around the corner, shows that something hasn't been experienced before. This is new. But we've somehow bought into the social conditioning that discomfort means bad. Discomfort means horror, uncertainty, unsafe. Oh my gosh, I'm about to be obliterated. Something bad is going to happen, but it's so untrue. And the moment you can wrap your head around that discomfort is showing you newness is coming in, it doesn't make it good or bad, then you can actually shift your focus into the direction of, wow, this is exciting. What is coming toward me? What is coming at me? I don't feel so comfortable. That might mean that something is showing up to benefit me. There's a novel idea. Novel meaning new. And it's all based on my experiences and my awareness and my sitting with myself in meditation and dreams that I have, that people I encounter, people engaging in my life and interacting with me. Witnessing things that have happened over the years. Just over 2 years, a couple days ago, would have been 2 years that my mother passed. And very wise woman, ahead of her time. And I've been sitting with how much my mom was aware of back in the day that she was unable to articulate. My mom was never at a loss for words. The woman could articulate with the best of them. And the words that she used, I learned a lot. Because a lot of times we don't even use the kinds of words that collegiates use. There are so many more words to describe. It's a form of art, people, to be a wordsmith. And to even be able to look at a word and break it down to the root and its origin and the etymology, the history of it, where it came from. You learn a lot when you start looking deeper into history, things that have been planted to condition us in a certain way, and things also that were left out or maybe hidden, and you had to uncover it. That's why research is so powerful, so important, so that you can be in more awareness, because information is powerful, and it is something that you can use to your benefit and your advantage. But here's the key. You can have all the information and the awareness ever. But if you don't know how to apply it, you don't know how to integrate it into your life, it will never become wisdom for you. You can have experiences, but if you don't see the blessings and the lessons that they offer you and provide you at the time or at some point in your life, then once again, you don't gain wisdom without integration. Whatever you've been through in your life has made you the person you are. But those situations and those experiences do not define the person that you are. So sitting with this word spirituality. Now, here's where it gets good. For people who have known me for many, many years, I've always been a very intelligent young woman, fierce, sometimes a little bit more vocal. I could easily I'm a very loyal, I'm a Lioness Leo. If you lose my trust, you'll know it because I can't look you in the eye. I have softened quite a bit over the years because of the work I have done, self-help, self-care, self-love, nurturing. But I am not stupid, nor am I naive. I have had my periods of life where I was naive to circumstances, though in some ways that actually worked out in my favor as I looked back and I realized, wow, had I not been naive, I might have dug myself a deeper hole, is really how I see that one. Because when someone would wrong me in the past, I'm not going to say I was vindictive, but I could hold a grudge with the best of them. And I'm not a violent person whatsoever, never really have been. I might express anger with yelling and screaming, but I never direct it at the person as much as I try to find ways to transmute that. And my biggest way has always been exercise, getting out in nature, walking, doing something in the yard. But I will never attack someone directly because I dislike it. I don't want to harm someone else, nor would I want someone to harm me or myself. And so this word spirituality, so knowing my past, those of you who have known me for many years, you know the type of person I have been. I have demonstrated professionalism. I was in the Air Force. I was very aware of what circumstances were unjust. And in those cases, I was like my mom, trying to right wrongs. But then came a time when there was no more I could do, and then it was finally I gave up fights. You know, they say choose your battles wisely. Well, I choose my peace wisely these days. And I don't feel the need to create argument or drama. If anybody ever tells you they're not into drama, that's a warning sign, people. Because the person who immediately declares they're drama free or I don't do drama, they are telling you straight off the bat that they feed on drama. Because anyone who's got to tell you they're not into drama typically is going to bring you drama. Because we're all dramatic. We're all actors on the stage of life. So just own it, okay? But if you're a true drama queen, it's going to show rather quickly, or king. So the spirituality didn't come into my life in the sense of yoga and meditation and breath work and all that right away. I have always had a spiritual connection since I was a little girl. Spiritual, I was raised Catholic, but spiritual in the sense that connection to nature was my big one. To me, God was in nature. God was in everything. It was in the blades of grass. It was in the flowers. It was in the smells. It was in the sounds of the birds. It was in the air that I was breathing. It was in the water, in the babbling brook that I went down to. Every single little detail to me was a connection to God, to source, to spirit, to all that is and was and ever will be. And I recognized that at a young age. I didn't need someone to tell me that. I knew that. That was my nature. That was a gift that I continue to feel. Nature is my church, exactly. And that's exactly how I felt, because even in the Bible, God said, do not worship me within four walls. And I took that literally, because to me, I knew I didn't need to go to church to prove my love for God, source, and all. And going through motions doesn't prove anything. A lot of times it's a form of denial of what really truly is going on within yourself. And this is why I'm bringing up this conversation about spirituality, because so many people want to bypass what is really going on within them and act like nothing is wrong. When in reality, they're screaming from the inside out saying, please, please acknowledge me. Please see me. I'm freaking out right now. I'm having an existential crisis. Essentially, we all go through this. Again, expansion, contraction, in love, out of love, in fear, out of fear, right? And so spirituality is not like all airy-fairy, out in the ethers. You got to be connected to the physical body. You need to be rooted in the earth. You need to be walking on the planet that we incarnated as humans as. We didn't come here to be out of our bodies. Come on, people. If you're trying to escape in some way, shape, or form, whatever your vice is, eating, even plant medicines and other forms of healing modalities, you have to check yourself. It could be yoga. It could be meditation. It could be breath work. Anything can be an addiction, people. Anything. But it's awareness that's key to knowing and recognizing it. I mean, especially during these times, I'm here to tell you, I've been in my refrigerator a lot more than normal. I don't feel like it's contributing to any weight gain or weight loss. Or what I am noticing is how it affects my skin and my muscles and my joints and such. Hence why I posted about bringing out my Live Food Factor book again, because essentially for me, when I go back to like eating what I would consider the junk good food, I notice how it feels in my body. I notice what my body does and the reactions and responses and my mood. It truly is like when you're in a certain mood, which is essentially when you're being triggered by an old trauma, you will reach for the food from that time, something familiar that you would have reached for back then to soothe it, and then it just reinforces the mood because it's the same vibration, the same energy. So if your mood is here and you reach for the food that's on the same frequency, same vibration, you're just maintaining that same vibration and frequency. The only way that's going to shift or change is if you're willing to not reach for the same thing, if you're willing to sit with the discomfort and recognize that, wow, this is what's arising for me. And because this is arising for me, I should really confront it this time. Because if it's coming up, it's an opportunity to heal it fully by feeling it fully, right? Those of you who've been watching me for over 3 years, or up to 3 years since we started Ridiculously Authentic, you probably have questions, and I am willing to answer them so that you can ask me in the comments. And even if I don't answer them in this video, I will do another video in the future, because there's some things I'm sure were clear, maybe not so clear. And it's the reason I'm talking about spirituality. Spirituality cards, when people pull them on me, and how they'll say, well, I thought you were all spiritual and stuff. Translation, I thought you were all naive and that you were gullible and that you were going to serve me and that you're going to support my needs and forget about your own. Because there's this people pleaser attachment to the word spirituality that says, oh, they're spiritual, then they're all love and light, and I could probably slide in something that I want to manipulate to get. Yeah, I'm calling that card. Because I had that card called on me a few times recently, and especially the other day. Well, I thought you're all spiritual and you'd understand. What the heck kind of spiritual were you thinking that I was going to understand? What the person was trying to do, essentially, was get me to appease them, to cower to their, or acquiesce to their request, demand in this case. And I was like, I'm sorry, I have my own situation, and I didn't feel the need to explain myself. See, that's when you know you have evolved from your past. I didn't feel the need to defend myself. I walked away from the situation feeling good about not feeling bad for not people-pleasing, for not cowering to that person's demands. I've seen it a lot in my life where people will just assume because I've given and I've done things for people, they'll try to push me over my boundaries. They think I've given so much that it's nothing, so they can push me a little bit further. I'm telling you right now, I find it offensive. Not only do I find it offensive, most of the time I won't say anything. I don't respond. But here's what I would say in my mind. Anybody out there seen the movie Michael? Right? So when someone says to me, I thought you were all spiritual with their passive-aggressive behavior, because that's what I get from them, is this passive aggressivity in the form of, I thought you were spiritual. So essentially, they've walked in to my space calling me out for something they project upon me. They have taken this word spirituality with their little box. They're not looking at me as an individual person. They're looking at me as what they consider gullible, naive, people-pleasing, enabling their behaviors and giving them what they want. Because you know what spiritual people do, don't you? At least this is the impression I was given from the conversation. Spiritual people, they don't hold anything back. If you ask them for something, they have to say yes, because spiritual people, they're just givers. They don't take anything. They don't want anything. Bullshit. That's my bullshit card. We're all still human. I know a lot of spiritual people, they will spiritually bypass their own feelings to people please. Now, of course, there has to be a group of people that have given people the impression and allowed them to create these preconceived ideas about what spirituality is, or people wouldn't come up with these ideas. I don't know where this was all planted. But there's a lot of people in all walks of life, all groups of people, subscribe to certain labels. And that doesn't make them better or worse. I mean, people will use the label vegan or vegetarian. That doesn't mean they eat healthy people. You know, I know for myself, I never liked the term vegan. I didn't like the term vegetarian, because then you've opened yourself up to this little box that you need to fit into. And the moment you're out of line in that box, people call you out for what you didn't do to adhere to that label. So when you call yourself something, be ready for criticism. Be ready to be pointed fingers at, because that's what we've been conditioned to do, is to point fingers at people and find fault and what's wrong with them. Instead of seeing them and going, wow, you're a super cool dude. You're a super cool woman. You know what? I really admire you for you. Not because you're looking at the person and they are living up to the list of whatever that label you have applied to them means. So this person says this to me. They say, I thought you're all spiritual and stuff, and I thought you'd understand. And I was like, oh, okay. So essentially you walked over to me, expecting me to meet your demands, and the moment I didn't meet your demands, you pulled the spirituality card on me, passive aggressive, because that has served that individual. See, when people show you their colors, show you their truth, believe them, trust it. Some people don't realize you can read them quicker than they even could tell you about themselves, because most people don't know themselves. It's through their actions that you can know them better. I, for myself, have always been able to read between the lines to the degree that people don't realize I see a lot more than they think they're revealing to me, whether spoken or unspoken. I have always been like that long before I got on the spiritual yoga path. Please. I'm not really crazy about the word spirituality the way it's being used. I have always been spiritual since I was a little girl, because to me, spirit is all about breath, is about sustainment, is about life in general. It's the full essence of every sense and every molecule and everything. You don't even have to believe in God to be spiritual, people. But what I do get upset at is people will try to manipulate using labels, trying to get what they want. And that's part of what's going on right now. This is shadow work, people. They're showing you their shadows. So when someone shows up to you and they try to call you out on something, they're essentially calling themselves out, and they don't even see it. They don't recognize it because they don't know themselves well enough, but they are revealing who they are and where they're at in their journey and their evolution of life. This individual basically showed me they were entitled. Everything that came out of their mouth after I sat with it, and I was like, wow, that was a rather interesting encounter. To be truly honest with you, I felt sad for her because of the circumstances, because she wasn't full on outright honest with me. She was just trying to manipulate to get her way. And you know what? Guess what? I could see that it clearly has worked and served her in her life. She's older than I am, so she assumed that I would respect my elders and just cower and appease her. And that happens all the time. I was raised to respect my elders, you're supposed to respect authority, but I was also in the Air Force, and I also saw how people take advantage of those positions. So at the same time I could see it, and I could see all the cards being played and the behaviors, I also saw that what she was wrestling with was the fact that she still expected the externals, other people, to meet the needs that she wanted to be met. Didn't mean they were necessary needs or basic needs. They were just demands that make her feel comfortable. And so therefore, again, instead of seeing circumstances that could have been dealt with better and making it about us together versus just her, because isn't this the funny part? Anytime you make demands of another person, you are essentially making it about yourself. Sit with that one for a second. The moment you are demanding someone else do something for you or accommodate them, even though they don't point a finger at you, you need to do this because you've upset me. You're the problem. They're not willing, they're unwilling to look within themselves to see where they can adjust to make themselves feel comfortable. Those are the entitled people that expect the external world is revolving around them, and they expect the external world to adjust to keep them in their comfort zone. But guess what? Growth never happens within your comfort zone. So you have to be willing to feel the discomfort to grow. Like the butterfly in the chrysalis, like the blossom coming out of the seed or the flower erupting. There's so many examples. But the truth is if you want to grow, you have to be willing to sit with the discomfort, because in the discomfort lies your comfort. So it was a very beautiful opportunity for me to walk away. Okay, yes, here's my nature, and this is the truth of who I am. I'm like, what the hell? Have you seen the movie Michael? I'm not that kind of angel. When she turns around and confronts Michael, who is, at the bar smoking and drinking and has a couple girls over the next morning, she goes, well, I thought you were an angel. He goes, I'm not that kind of angel. I appreciate that, because that's called owning who you are and not trying to be what other people think you should be or what their idea of you is. That's the time we're living in right now. Are you willing to step into your personal power? Are you going to give it away, disempower yourself by allowing others to manipulate and perpetuate something that isn't even you? Let yourself stay in alignment with what feels right, what feels true to you. As long as you're not doing harm to anyone else, what's the problem? There's a lot of bullying going on, and it's all about people feeling like they can remain entitled. It's ironic, the themes that have been coming up for everyone, and they don't see the opportunities for growth. Your shadow work is anything that's bothering you that's come to surface during this time. That's what you need to confront, that's what you need to work through, and that's what you need to heal. The fact that people need to conform to things is all about this idea of safety, and it's walking around like it's like that something is going to keep you safe. The only thing that keeps you safe is in here. Nobody can save you. Nobody's going to show up to save you, people, except for you. I know that's a humbling one, right? Stop giving your power away to outside external forces, because they're not going to save you. You have to be your own savior. Don't try saving and helping others either and think that's going to help you. If anything, that's another distraction from keeping you from saving and working on your own stuff, your own self. Truth of the matter is, only you can take care of you, because only you know what you need. And when you give it away to someone else, you're disempowering yourself. We're all human. We all have emotions. We all have needs and desires. It doesn't make you any better or any worse or any less or more. The truth of the matter is, if I can serve someone within my healthy boundaries, or they can serve me within their healthy boundaries, or maybe we extend each other's boundaries and we find ways to maybe learn and grow from that by adjusting. Life is an adjustment. Life is constant. You only grow when you're willing to grow. The biggest addiction we all have is on our beliefs. Whatever you think you believe, you need to challenge at all times. Your flexibility, your adaptability determines your success rate in life. And that doesn't mean you have to be some famous Hollywood star, which I don't think anybody wants to be right now, or a politician, or a business tycoon, let's say. There's so much uncertainty out there in the world. We're starting to learn that a lot of the successes are actually facades. They're all fake. There's a lot of lies out there. The real success is an internal job, and everything that we want to experience and what we can express or be has to start from within. A lot of the rules we think we've always known are being dismantled and challenged right now. Is it true you need to work hard for success or to gain, access wealth beyond your wildest dreams? I mean, think about some of the stuff that we grew up seeing on TV, hearing on the radio, witnessing in advertising and media. Were they really our own thoughts? Were they really the things that we wanted to experience and have or be? Or were we just being socially conditioned to believe that way? Because belief systems, up until the age of 6 years old, everything that we learn is implanted in us. We absorb our environment. It all comes in because we're so tactile and our senses are on hyper overload, and then we're taking in all this stimulus. So no matter what has happened in your life up until that point has been the massive baseline of what everything else has been built upon. And some of us have been disempowered from the start, whether sexual traumas and abuses or verbal abuses, whatever they be. And we're just putting the pieces back together again and reclaiming those parts of ourselves that we felt we lost, or maybe we denied, maybe we shut down. In order to be whole, we have to embrace it all. And when I say embrace it all, I also mean the parts of ourselves that we don't want to see, we don't want to recognize because they were so painful. But do you know, even the dark, even the pain, even all of that trauma needs to be embraced and loved just as much as the light. You want to know what true spirituality is? Is honoring the spirit in it all. Even the stuff you don't want to look at, the stuff you don't like. Truth of the matter is, spirituality is about every aspect of life. And that if you can see that at some point, and the best way I can explain it, is when you notice, when you recognize that you are the creator of source of all of your experiences, because you are. There is no separateness, there is no divide, there is no out there external God, because it's all one. And I'm not saying that to be airy-fairy, and I'm not spiritually bypassing. I'm being real. Spiritually bypassing a lot in religion is to explain to people that Jesus was the Son of God and you're not. Or that God is God. And that's just that man in the sky that is fearing and loathing and everything that you do is being hyper criticized by something else. No, you know what? You are the judge and jury at the end of the day. You're the one who's going to reflect upon your life and determine, did I do the best thing I could do in that situation? Did I live my best life? Was I willing to show up in all cases the best version of myself? Or did I withhold? And only you're going to be able to answer that, and only you can decide, will you embrace that and love that even if you're not happy with it? Because you are truly the creator. And that's not a woo-woo thing. You are. The sooner you're willing to embrace that, the sooner you're going to expand into massive awakening, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. You can manifest whatever you want. You deserve whatever you desire. There is no right or wrong. Again, if you are willing to be in awareness of how your mind operates and stop beating yourself up for the thoughts that you have or the things that you want, or, sometimes we do have a thought about something. We think, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have thought that. Oh wow, your awareness that you even thought it is beautiful. That's a step in the right direction, because the moment you had the thought, you can say, wow, that's where my mind went right now. And I know it's not true. But my mind is so clever, it can come up with all sorts of scenarios, all sorts of ideas, because that's what makes us such amazing, unique, special human beings, is that we have so much power. More power than they want you to think you have. I don't know if anybody's seen the cartoon. There's a cartoon with this plank. Remember the days of pirates. And there's a man, and he's standing at a podium, and he is on the edge of one of the plank, on the one side of the plank. It is hovering over a cavern, like the Grand Canyon, like a canyon. So it's got a drop. And there's a bunch of people standing on the other side. But essentially, one of the guys and a couple guys, people just start turning around and walking away. At what point are we all going to recognize how much power we really do wield, how much we have within us? That one person cannot control the masses. That we are the ones that determine whether or not we go along to get along. Hey, come on, there's a reason why all these little old slogans and paradigms and stuff was created. It was to keep people in that space. I'm not here to go along to get along in the space that is all about conformity. I'm here to allow, I want everybody to have the same right to choose no matter what it is in your life. Religious, spiritual, agnostic, you determine. Because it's all based on your experience. It's experiential living. It is also self-initiating. There's all sorts of stuff you can go out there and do. It's up to you to choose to do it. And so I spoke about before about whatever we're doing, whatever we're feeling, whatever we're thinking, we're choosing in the moment. That in itself, the awareness of seeing that I choose this experience in this moment, that in itself is claiming back your power. That is empowering. That you always have the choice. You always have the choice to do whatever it is you choose to do, be, think, and experience. Most of the times we're just conflicted about it. And the reason we're conflicted is because the belief systems that we have adhered to, we have bought into, whether conditioned from external sources or just ideas we bought into, doesn't mean they're ours, are conflicting with our heart and our soul and our innate knowing, our intuition. Whenever you have an internal conflict, it's because this and this are at odds. It's exhausting when it's out of alignment with your heart and soul. If your mind is trying to overpower your heart, you're going to find you are physically drained, emotionally tired. You are just like, oh, I've had enough. Mentally, emotionally, physically. You feel it on all levels. But when you are in alignment, you're not just jazzed. You're pumped. You're energized. You're vibrant. You could go for days. Recognize where you're at in your life. Are you in alignment, or are you exhausted and fighting between the two? There's a whole lot of stuff we could get into about this. But essentially, recognize what is your belief around what is spirituality? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is that for you? Do you consider yourself spiritual? Let me know in the comments. I want to know, is it just me that gets that card pulled that, oh, I thought you were all spiritual, which translates to, I thought you were all naive and gullible and we're a people pleaser and we're here to serve me, you know? And there's an agenda. Everybody's got an agenda. The question is whether or not you can show up and own your agenda and be transparent. Because most people are unwilling to do that. They don't want to confront their accusers. Or vice versa. Accusers don't necessarily want to confront you directly. They want to circumvent and use the system where they can hide behind the bureaucracy. I don't want you to know I'm upset with you. Did they find out it was me? Oh my gosh, I reported you. Oh, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of world we're living in right now. We're living in a world where people hit the report button, ban, block, whatever, instead of just saying, wow, I disagree, but I can still honor your view. That's called spiritual maturity, people. Spiritual maturity is the willingness to show up to one another and say, you know what? I honor whatever it is you believe. I'm not here to argue with you because you know what? I know how hard it is to be a human, and I would rather agree to disagree because you're allowed to have your views and I'm allowed to have mine. I'm allowed to do the research I do and trust my intuition and not expect someone or do to someone where we're bullying each other into this idea that you need to believe what I believe, because whatever you want to buy into, that's up to you, boo. I'm not here to talk you out of or into anything. So much going on in the world. Find your peace. Choose your peace wisely. Get out of the negating statements. Not choose your battles wisely. Choose your peace wisely. If you can get out of the negative mindset, because a lot of what people think is positive is negative talk. Things like, well, I don't know what I want to have for dinner. Okay, like, you know, when you go to a restaurant, somebody asks you, what would you like to eat? Well, I know I don't want this and I don't want that. Wow. That shows how negative a person is when they're more fixated on what they don't want than what they can directly say, I know exactly what I want. So when I go somewhere, 9 times out of 10, if I'm going somewhere, I have a pretty good idea of what I want. It's usually just like, ooh, I'm between this and this maybe. But I won't look at something and waste energy by saying I don't want that. See, that is where you conserve your energy, people. When you focus more on the direct line, the path to what it is you desire to experience, to achieve, to feel, to breathe, to smell, to taste, to touch. All of that, keep your focus, eye on the prize, as they say. You don't have to go along to get along. Maybe the people you think you need to get along with aren't your people. Maybe they served their purpose at some point. It's time to let them be. Let them go on their own mosey way. Let them go along to get along, you know? I like that Abraham Hicks talks about the boat. What makes you think you're going to save a sinking boat by jumping in the sinking boat? I'm sorry, if you are in the lifeboat, help pull them into your boat. But if they're unwilling to get out of their sinking boat and they want to stay in their sinking boat, you're at no obligation. I know most of us feel bad because we want to help people. We want to see them happy. We want to see them succeed. But you also have to learn your limitations. You have to learn to discern. I have a situation right now. I have a dear friend. Person is really struggling. But I know my limitations. I know I'm not the person. The person is not willing to see their situation. I can't make them see it. Tough love sometimes is also saying, I love you dearly, but you need to seek help, and I'm not the person, and I cannot sit here and enable your behavior because it goes against what I feel in my heart and soul and is not in alignment with me. And to go along, to get along for me would be out of accord with my heart and soul, and it would be unhealthy. It would be an unhealthy boundary crossing because I cannot enable a behavior that I myself would not partake in. And I especially am not going to be a hypocrite and say, it's not okay for that person to do it and me go ahead and do it. Or vice versa. It's okay for me to do it and not you. I'm not that type of person. I do my best to walk my path with integrity. And that's the bottom line. If it is not within your integrity, don't compromise yourself. That's where healthy boundaries are very important. Mind, body, soul connection, people. The more you can get in alignment with all of this, you will be less exhausted. And don't bring people into your life or invite people that you're thinking you can help, but you're also kind of like, well, oh man, I didn't know what I signed up for. Guess what? If you find that you see clues, pay attention. And you can always change your mind. Somebody shows up in your life and it didn't work out, you just say, listen, I did my best. I really wanted to help you, whatever the circumstances are. I'm just not the person for you. And I have to ask you to step out of my life or whatever you are dealing with. Life's not always easy. But it's only easy if you choose it to be easy. Like I said, you choose your battles or you choose your peace. When you choose the peace, you're going to find less of the angst and exhaustion. Because the exhaustion is coming from you battling your head and your heart. If your head is trying to talk you through something or into something or out of something, then you're not in here. And then you're working in the fear department. Okay? So notice when a trigger arises, that's an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to finally work through whatever that trigger was really about. Go back to the root cause. What is it that's surfacing? What is it that you're afraid of your needs not getting met? As an adult, most of them coming from their childhood, they don't exist anymore. But a lot of times what people are doing is choosing to replay out the same stories from the past, so in hopes that on an unconscious or conscious level that they can heal that old past experience through recreating it and somehow solving it. But yet, most of the time, they're doing the same exact thing, using the same coping mechanisms, survival tactics, the same behavior that got them in the situation to begin with. So when you do notice these things coming up for yourself, be humble. Be willing to oh wow, I'm feeling angry right now. Oh, I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling grief. I don't know how to handle this right in this moment. What can I do? What can I do in this moment to work through this? What is the gift? What is the blessing that is arising through this all? Because essentially, when you feel that coming up in you, that is energy that is wanting to burn through and move out. The moment you resist it, suppress it, deny it, you're creating more of it. You're giving it more energy. Because what do they say about the ball in the water? You have a ball that is filled with air and you're trying to push it under the water, or just like a volcano, when the magma, it builds up. It will come out so much more powerful for every time you have tried to stuff it down and get rid of it and deny it. What you deny will come back to bite you in the ass 10 times more each time. And be careful about the words you use to tell your story, because words cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. We're all powerful manifestors, and there is so much power in your words. Oh, that's another video for another time. Remind me. That's the next video I'll be doing, is talking about once you know better, you do better. And so this is part of the spiritual path. When you see somebody else, they're in a situation that you're pointing a finger going, they should know better. They should know better. Do you realize the fact that you notice that means you know better? Don't assume they know better. You don't know where they are on their path. They may be still in a zombie state. They may still be dumbed down, numbed out. But don't ever point a finger to someone else and say, you should know better. Because you're taking yourself down in vibration. I want you to truly consider this. There is an opportunity to either choose to see the blessing when you notice that someone else does not know better and you do, or you can be the martyr, the hypocrite, and call them out on it, because that's what our culture has done. Our culture has conditioned us to believe that we need to police each other, we need to point out everybody else's faults, that someone else is always to blame, to shame, that we ourselves are just faultless. But we are also supposed to feel like the martyr, like we have problems too. I mean, there's this double-edged sword with all of this conditioning. But when you see someone and you do recognize that they didn't see, but you did, you're the angel sent with awareness. And if that means you're in awareness, that means your vibration's at a certain level. And if your vibration is there, you can keep going up or you can lower it down. If you want to evolve and grow in your spirituality and your frequency, you want to be more enlivened, enlightened, conscious, you want to manifest, you want to heal your life, stop pointing fingers at other people and look at yourself. Be in gratitude for your awareness. When you see something in someone else, bless them. Pray for them. Be the person in the right, not in the wrong. The person in the wrong who is living in their karma will point out the faults. But if you step back and you recognize, wow, I saw that person might not be at that level that you're at. Don't assume you know where that person's at. We don't know. We want to think we do, because that's how the mind operates. The mind wants to act like it just knows it all. But drop into your heart and be happy that, wow, you were the one who saw it. I always use the example of driving a car. People will cut you off all the time, all day. If you're the one who avoided the accident, you saved them, you saved yourself, you saved a whole lot of other things and people in the process. That in itself shows that you were the earth angel sent to protect that person. That's a gift. And if you continue to have gratitude in those moments, you will see more and more of those beautiful experiences. But they'll look more magical, because if you shift your perspective from the blame-shame game to the, because it's all awesome. Wow, that was really cool. That was really cool. So to really scoop this all up, spirituality doesn't mean that people are gullible, airy-fairy, out of their minds and just hippie-ish. Spiritual maturity is knowing I am a human being, not a human doing. I am not here to appease you. I can give you tough love. Only if you're willing to show up to me to make changes you want to make, will I be willing to support and hold and help you. But I'm not going to waste my energy with somebody who wants to be held and enabled in an old pattern of behavior. That doesn't align with me. That's not in alignment with my integrity. And that's the type of person I am. Doesn't make me less spiritual. If anything, that's more spiritual. Because I will hold you accountable as long as you are willing to hold yourself accountable. I'm not here to fix anybody. I don't like the word help either, because help also implies helplessness. But what I will say is if someone shows up into my life and they're willing to do the work, they're willing to meet me to a certain degree, where they're at, that's what it's all about, people. Is people meeting people where they're at. I don't need you to excuse yourself or make up stories. I don't even need to do that or defend myself or you defend yourself. We are here to support one another. But if you show up with an agenda and wanting to manipulate or use certain verbiage with somebody or myself, you're showing me that you're not willing to own your shit. That's clear. That's clear. And I can read through it quite a bit more than people are willing to be called out for. And I'm not going to call people out for stuff like that. But what I like to do is share examples of how I've witnessed things in my life. Because that's how life unfolds, is through experience. Wow, that was pretty powerful. I saw what happened there. And yeah, I'll tell you right now, if you're in my close inner circle, maybe one or two people got to hear me go, what the heck was that all about? What, they thought I would? Bullshit. And I dropped some bombs of, I curse. I also curse people. I'm not that type of angel type person, in the sense that I am human. I drop a word or two here or there because sometimes I get a little frustrated myself. And the fiery woman within me, I tell you right now, I turn into Kali. I want to burn it all down sometimes. I know other women out there like that too. But I contain myself. I calm myself. I claim myself and contain myself because I know my power. I step into my personal power. I know I'm a queen, and I'll own that. And that's another whole lot I want to talk about in the future too, is I'm about here to support queens being queens and kings being kings, and you stepping into your personal power. So my videos from now on are going to be a lot more like very powerful, in the sense that I want to provide you what will inspire you to evolve into the king or queen that you are meant to be and serve in this life. Because that's another thing. You think a king and queen sits on the throne? No, let me tell you right now. The true king and the true queen, they're down there in the trenches. You don't even know they're kings and queens because they're humble, and you may even think they're pushovers. You may think they're just like the spiritual people where you can get them to do whatever you want. But I tell you right now, a true king and queen, they won't necessarily tell you. They just know. Only the other kings and queens will recognize the others. There's a lot of false stories out there. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of, false king and queens. People trying to claim they're something they're not. And those are the ones living in fear. Because again, we're always either acting out of love or out of fear of not being loved or lovable. So if someone is trying to push an agenda on you, you'll be able to feel it. It doesn't feel right. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust your feelings. Trust this. Notice if it's exhausting, because if it's exhausting, that's that challenge that you're having between the heart and the head. I know the times we're living in right now, my mom knew. She knew all about the stuff that's coming to surface right now. My mom knew a lot more than she could articulate. So, I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, sharing is caring, and if there's any way I can serve you in the future, if you have any questions, please place them in the comments. Reach out to me. Yeah, I want to start a podcast. I want to start talking about the masculine and the feminine and about the healing that we need to do within ourselves. You're looking to draw in your perfect partner, you got to work on yourself first. Are you your own perfect partner? Put the unity back in the community. You got to start with the inner unity to create community. And that's what I'm about. That's what it's all about. All right. So much love, so many blessings.